Hey, good morning, everyone. Meteorologist Steve Caparata here in the WAFB First Alert Storm Center, obviously facing a significant threat of severe weather later on today and this evening. So we're going to bring you a complete update on what we're seeing in terms of the specific threats, the timing, things like that. What you need to know as we work our way through this Wednesday. Some of you watching on Facebook, some of you on WAFB Plus, YouTube Live. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, we kind of did a refresh on that recently, relaunched it. Give it a subscribe. We're posting new content to our YouTube channel and also posting some of the old stories that you love to see. So it goes beyond just covering the weather and the news, some of the old content popping up there as well. Give that a look if you haven't already. But obviously headlining things today is this threat of severe weather, and not just locally, what looks to be an even more significant threat for folks up to our north, but we'll walk you through that. So first off, let's start with the severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. So while most of us were sleeping overnight, the Storm Prediction Center did upgrade the severe weather threat locally once again. I can tell you they updated the outlook at about 7:30 this morning again and didn't really change it. So came out with an update around 1 a.m. that upgraded the threat locally, and then the one that came out at about 7:30 remained kind of status quo here in South Louisiana and Southwest Mississippi. So as it stands right now in the orange from Lafayette to Baton Rouge, Hammond, Slidell, and right on down into New Orleans, that's a level 3 out of 5 or an enhanced risk of severe weather. Closer to the coast, a 2 out of 5 or slight risk. And quite noteworthy to see this level 4 out of 5 moderate risk that is posted just north of Baton Rouge. So for the parishes bordering the state line and extending up into Southwest Mississippi, a level 4 out of 5 or that moderate risk posted. Now, I looked it up. The last time we had a moderate risk impacting any part of our area, not all that long ago. One was posted last April, but they don't pop up all that often and certainly need to be taken very seriously. What is even more noteworthy and more rare is this 5 out of 5, this high risk that is posted in central North Mississippi, in parts of Alabama, a little bit of northeast Louisiana, and extreme southeastern Arkansas. With the 7:30 update, this high risk, this 5 out of 5, was expanded a bit, so it officially does now include Monroe, Louisiana, and on its eastern flank expanded to include places like Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Alabama, Jackson, well within that as well. And we could be dealing with a very dangerous setup later today and tonight, especially in this high-risk area, but nothing to sneeze at here in southeast Louisiana and southwest Mississippi in terms of the severe weather threat that we're going to be facing as well. And just to give you an idea of some of the strong wording coming out from the Storm Prediction Center with what they call a public severe weather outlook. So they put out technical discussions daily, but when we get into these real significant severe weather threats, they put out what they call a public severe weather outlook that talks in a little more, less of the weather speak and meteorology speak, and really tries to hammer home the key messages. The wording, though, is pretty strong. They're warning within this outlook area of numerous tornadoes, several potentially intense and long track, scattered damaging winds, some of which could be hurricane force, scattered large hail, some of which could be baseball size. Now again, that's a regional outlook, and as they've delineated here, the greatest threat is up to our north, but with a level 3, level 4 risk here in parts of our area, we need to be very weather aware this afternoon and this evening. So those are the basic categories that go 1 through 5. Let's talk about what those categories actually mean in a little more detail. So we can break that down into probabilities of specific types of severe weather. So here in the yellow, which is basically the level 3 risk, including much of Metro Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Hammond, Slidell. As we look at the tornado probabilities, Storm Prediction Center basically has a 10% chance of a tornado occurring within 25 miles of a point. So if we pick Baton Rouge, we drew a circle with a 25-mile radius. Storm Prediction Center saying there's a 10% chance that a tornado touches down somewhere within that 25-mile radius circle. So that's still a relatively low probability for any given point on the map, but it's a much higher threat than we would see on any given day. One thing I tried to hammer home on our morning show, you know, when we talk about tropical weather threats, a tropical storm or a hurricane, the impacts are a little more uniform in terms of the wind and rainfall. When you talk about severe weather threat, it's much more scattered and sporadic. Not everyone going to get in on the severe weather today by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that the threat is much more elevated than we see with the typical cold fronts. That's why we need to take it seriously. As you get into the red here, a 15% chance or better of a tornado touching down within 25 miles of a point, and then closer to the coast, it's a 5% chance. And then there's an added layer to all of this. The Storm Prediction Center adding in these hatch marks. Can you see that? Those do extend down into Baton Rouge. Not only a chance of tornadoes today, but within this area that's hatched in, Storm Prediction Center outlining at least a 10% chance of an EF2 or stronger tornado. So basically a 10% chance of a strong tornado. So we need to be on guard and be alert that not only is there a potential of a few tornadoes later today, we can't rule out a strong tornado. It's not going to say it's going to be gangbusters, strong tornadoes everywhere, but one or two somewhere in our local area is not out of the question. The greater threat for that is still up to our north, but that's certainly something to pay attention to. Now, as we look at damaging winds and the probabilities of those in sort of the reddish shade, which actually extends a little bit south of Baton Rouge, a 30% chance or better of damaging winds within 25 miles points. That's a pretty high number. In the yellow, it's a 15% chance. And again, on the damaging winds, we get some of this hatching. So that indicates from the Storm Prediction Center, and that does kind of come right into Baton Rouge, at least a 10% chance of hurricane-force wind gusts. So damaging winds possible later today, and those winds could be of an even stronger magnitude, something we'll watch closely. And then as we look at the large hail probabilities, again in the red, that's a 30% chance or better. That includes most of our viewing area, a 15% chance down closer to the coast. One more time, we get the hatching showing up. That's near and north of Baton Rouge. That's at least a 10% chance of hail that's 2 inches in diameter or larger, so very large hail. So bottom line here is a significant threat of severe weather this afternoon, this evening, and the threat only gets higher the farther north that you go. So again, kind of breaking it down, hopefully in simpler terms to make sense of what all those probabilities mean. So I took Baton Rouge. I drew a circle that's got roughly a 25-mile radius around it. And the outlook from the Storm Prediction Center today would indicate roughly a 10% chance that a tornado touches down somewhere in this yellow circle. So somewhere around the heart of Metro Baton Rouge. So what does that mean? Still somewhere close to a 90% chance that we don't get a tornado anywhere within this area. That's an important point to make. It's just that 10% is much higher than we see on most days. Roughly a 30% chance of damaging winds somewhere within that circle around Metro Baton Rouge, and roughly a 30% chance of large hail somewhere within that circle. So hopefully that makes a little more sense. Now, storms are already getting active up to our north and northwest this morning from East Texas, now building into northwest Louisiana and southern Arkansas. And then you can see a second line that extends to the east. So we've got a cold front out here, warm front here, and all that leading already to some active storms, although the greatest threat of those more intense long track tornadoes expected late afternoon on into tonight. We do already have, though, tornado watches extending from East Texas into northwest Louisiana, good chunk of Arkansas, north Mississippi, and a little bit of southwest Tennessee. So this is going to be a fairly long duration severe weather threat. On the regional scale, locally, it's actually going to be a relatively short window where we face that threat of severe weather. We do have a few showers showing up already this morning, kind of moving south to north. Now, if you got plans over the next several hours, no severe weather expected through the morning. So if you need to get anything done, don't worry about it. You might hit a shower, a nuisance type shower, but no severe weather expected through the morning. It's warming up. It's going to be another very warm day, and that is one of the things expected to fuel our severe weather threat is just the fact it's going to be warm outside. 74 in Baton Rouge. Already up to 78 in Gonzales. Most of it's low to mid 70s, but starting to see some upper 70s on the board. Now, let's step you through a couple of the different model projections and still some somewhat minor differences in timing, but you'll get the idea. The takeaway here is that the threat really ramps up late afternoon into the evening. So this is the graph model from IBM. It keeps things relatively quiet through lunchtime. Now, it's kind of underdoing the showers we already have, but the idea is through lunchtime, not much threat of severe weather. Once we get beyond lunch, there's some hints that especially a little east and northeast of Baton Rouge, a few storms could start to fire. Not out of the question, one or two of those could prompt a warning, but that's still a relatively low threat. It's more with this line and this cluster moving in later today that the main threat is expected. So on the graph, this is 2:30 this afternoon, the line moving east of Lake Charles, approaching Lafayette at that point in time, looking very healthy and intense in spots, and it brings it into the Baton Rouge area around 4 o'clock this afternoon with some pretty intense storms showing up. The line marches quickly eastward here, so here we are at 6 o'clock, but still some storms kind of firing south of Baton Rouge on the graph model. Those then shift off to the east, and by 9:30, 10 o'clock tonight, the threat is quickly winding down and skies already quickly clearing out from west to east. So that's the graph model. Let's give you a look at the HRRR, as we call it, the high resolution rapid refresh model. So again, we have a few showers moving northward through lunchtime. Nothing major expected. Now, as we get into the afternoon, you'll note how we get this hint of a few storms firing east and northeast of Baton Rouge. And sometimes you try not to dig too deep into this, but you can get the hint of the shape of these cells almost kind of indicating that the model's picking up on some spin in the atmosphere. So that's why it's not out of the question early to mid-afternoon. We could see a warning or two somewhere near and east of Baton Rouge, but we're more concerned with the cluster that's going to be moving in for the west. So 2:30, still got that main cluster out to our west. It's a little bit slower than the graph model I just showed you. Remember, the graph has the storms into Baton Rouge by 4 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, the HRRR still kind of has most of the activity a little bit west of Baton Rouge, but from 5 to 7, getting very active Metro Baton Rouge. We can see the hints of some intense storms. One thing to note here on the HRRR2 is that it doesn't really show a solid line. It doesn't necessarily show a squall line developing. If indeed that plays out, a squall line would largely be indicative of a straight line damaging wind threat. You can still get embedded tornadoes, but when you get kind of more this broken nature, this cellular nature, that indicates there's still pretty good spin in the atmosphere, and there may be this tornado potential without a solid squall line showing up. So that's 7 o'clock this evening, and then as we advance it towards 9 o'clock, it's got the storms beginning to shift east of Metro Baton Rouge, and by midnight we're all done and weather is rapidly improving. So two high-resolution models. I showed you there's some minor differences in timing, but once again, the key takeaway is late afternoon into the evening looks to be our main threat. So I've got roughly 3 p.m. through 9 p.m. as the main window of concern for our severe weather. If we rank the threats from any stronger storms that do develop, damaging winds and hail would be most likely, but followed not that far behind by the potential of a few tornadoes. The little bit of good news here, I don't see flooding as much of a threat. The storms are going to be moving along quickly. It's not to say where we get some heavier downpours, we couldn't get some localized street flooding in a few spots, but it shouldn't be a major issue around the area. And just to hammer that point home, here are model forecasts of rain totals for Baton Rouge, and you can see they're all coming in well under an inch. Now, I still think I wouldn't be shocked to see somebody get an inch and a half of rain where some fairly intense storms develop, but with the storms expected to move along quickly, not expecting flooding to be a major concern. So all this driven by a powerful storm system moving out of the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles this morning and shifting eastward. That is what's going to drive the severe weather threat. And as I showed you earlier, already some tornado watches being issued this morning. Here's a look at it on the visible satellite. I'm going to zoom in, and what's kind of interesting about this, if you're able to make it out, you might be able to see clouds kind of moving in different directions. So especially if you look off the coast, the clouds are kind of moving south to north. But if you look across across South Louisiana, they're moving more southwest to northeast. So it's kind of showing us the wind flow in different directions. So at the lowest levels of the atmosphere, winds are pretty much out of the south. But as you get, a mile or two up in the atmosphere, winds are more southwesterly. So it's a good visual on some of the wind shear that's in place right now. Southerly winds down low, southwesterly winds as you go up in the sky a bit. That wind shear expected to persist into the afternoon, and locally wind shear may be maximized, it looks like, late afternoon into the evening. So the question is, does the greatest wind shear, does that link up with the greatest instability? Instability locally may peak early to mid-afternoon and start to wane a bit. So we're going to see if those two parameters are able to link up enough to produce severe weather here locally, or if they don't quite jibe and we kind of luck out and we miss out. I'm still concerned. I still think there's a pretty good severe weather threat, so let's not count on that happening. Even if one's a little bit weaker than the other, you can still get severe weather. A very real possibility, we'll have a tornado watch out at some point this afternoon, this evening. Remember the difference now between a watch and a warning. A watch means that severe weather and or tornadoes are possible. Once a warning is issued, that means severe weather and or tornadoes are occurring, or they are imminent, or about to occur. So the warning's the most significant alert level, if you will. Now, if we get any tornado warnings, let's talk about safe places to go in your home. We're going to highlight those in green. So some key points. Number one, why do we have all these rooms highlighted in red? You generally want to stay away from exterior walls. Exterior walls can fail. Exterior walls can also be impaled by flying debris. Yes, we've seen pictures of things like 2x4s going straight through an exterior wall. So we want to stay away from exterior walls. So you want to get to the interior of whatever building you're in. A closet's often a good space. A hallway. If you've got stairwells and you have access to get underneath that stairwell, that's a good place. Bathrooms are typically good. Bathrooms are a little stronger due to the plumbing, typically. So this bathroom does have an exterior wall, but still a relatively safe place to be. You always want to try and get on the lowest floor of whatever building you're in. Now, obviously, most of you have probably heard through the years a basement is the safest place to go, but obviously we just don't have many of those in our part of the world, just not feasible. So some checklist items this morning while the weather's still quiet. If you don't already have it, download our weather app, WAFB.com/weather app, free download. Interactive radar there, alerts, watches, warnings, hour-by-hour forecast, lots of things you can use it for. If you've got anything loose outside of your home, secure that this morning, not only because of the severe weather potential, it's going to be a windy day overall, even outside of storms, so pick up anything that's loose. And as we just talked about, know your safe room in your home or your place of business now. You don't want to be scrambling to figure that out when a warning is issued, when you're under stress. Know that safe room now. And those of you living in mobile homes, this is always tricky. But say later on today, this evening, if you've got a friend that lives in a more sturdy home, a brick building, something like that, and you can ride it out at their home until the severe weather passes, that's always best. But at minimum, if you're in a mobile home, you need to be ready to act and act in a hurry if a warning is issued. Just not safe to ride out a tornado and sometimes even damaging winds within a mobile home. Let's give you a look quickly at what's ahead. Once we get through the severe weather threat today and tonight, significant improvement, also some significant changes. Not only drier tomorrow into the weekend, but quite a bit cooler. Tomorrow morning starts out around 50, highs in the mid to upper 60s. How about Friday? Maybe only high around 61. Some of that due to what I think will be a decent amount of cloud cover, but should stay dry. The weekend, though, looks beautiful. That's the good news. And then headed on into next week, temperatures will gradually warm up, and we'll see a chance of rain returning. Let me pull up our First Alert weather app here quickly. Give me just a second to get that loaded and displayed here on the screen so I can show you a couple of the features that I want you to be aware of, and that you can use to your aid today as we get through the severe weather threat. So first, here's our home screen, and some of you, if you've got our weather app, got this alert a few minutes ago, well, a little while ago, that I was going to be doing this live update. Any advisories, watches, and warnings will show up right here at the top of your home screen. So if we get a tornado watch later today, that'll show up here. If we get a warning, and on top of that, if you see any of these banners with an advisory, a watch, or a warning, you can tap on it. So I'll tap on the wind advisory that's in effect right now. That'll give you the details on that specific advisory, the watch, the warning. So from the National Weather Service on the wind advisory, they put that out saying south winds of 25 to 35 miles per hour today with higher gusts. That's outside of storms. That's why I say it's going to be a windy day. Now, let me get back. A couple other things to keep in mind. Number one, let's go up to the top right, what we call the hamburger menu, the 3 lines, and then we go into the settings right here. Number one, have WAP alerts toggled on. Those are the alerts that come straight from members of the storm team. So I sent out the alert at about 9:25. That'd be doing the live update. Anything coming straight from us, those are the WAP alerts. Weather notification types. So make sure you've got severe toggled on. I'll hit the little arrow here to expand that. That'll show you. That includes our tornado watches, tornado warning, severe thunderstorm watch, severe thunderstorm warning. So if any of those are issued, it will sound an alert on your phone, on your device, to let you know those are in effect. So make sure you've got those toggled on. And then one other thing you might want to look at, notification sounds. You can actually customize what happens when a tornado watch or warning or severe weather watch or warning is issued. So if we click on severe weather, you'll see there are several different options here you can choose from. Announce is actually going to be the voice of Chief Meteorologist Jay Grimes telling you what that watch or warning is. If you're the type that needs something a little more jarring to get your attention, this siren is kind of like an air raid siren, so you can play with those and get an idea. And then finally, we'll go to the radar tab here. First, I can show you that we've got a few showers around the area, but nothing terribly heavy. I can expand the view where we do have some watches in effect. So you can see the shading up in northwest Louisiana, but if you see some shading on the map, you don't know what it is, all you've got to do is tap on it. It'll tell you what it is. So it says tornado watch, and we can hit that arrow and get more information on the tornado watch, what exactly that entails. So there's a lot within there. And if you go down here, the bottom right, these 3 dots, those are all of your different layer options. So you can see, let's go to overlays. So I've got lightning turned on right now. We've got some lightning showing up in northwest Louisiana. Let's go to alerts. So right now I've got tornado and severe toggled on, so that's why the tornado watch is showing up to our northwest. So make sure you've got those toggled on if you want to keep track of them through the day. So several features, and there's more to it, but those are several of the things you can do. WAFB.com/weather app if you don't already have it installed. All right, I know I talked for a while there, but that's all I had. So hopefully that answered some of your questions, but give me a second now. I'm going to pop over to Facebook, and anybody watching on YouTube Live, I'll try to check in on that in a second to see what questions, if any, you guys may have. What app is this, am I saying? So our WAFB First Alert Weather app, if you search WAFB in your app store, you can find it that way. Or if you go to that link right here, WAFB.com/weather app, it has the links to where you can download the app for whatever platform you're on. Let's see. Is BR expecting the intense long track tornadoes? The greatest threat of the intense long track tornadoes is more to our north. If we got one today, the greatest threat, if we got one of those anywhere close to our area today, the greatest threat for that is going to be near north of the state line. Now, you never say never. And the Storm Prediction Center is at least given a 10% chance of a strong tornado basically from Baton Rouge northward. So there's the potential, a low-end potential at least, of a strong tornado later today. But the greatest threat of like those really intense, deadly intense tornadoes is more in that high-risk area. So from around Monroe, Louisiana through Jackson, Mississippi, over to Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, Alabama, that's where something like that is most likely. But obviously stay alert and stay with us. We'll walk you through these warnings as they come out. Ryan asking, is cloud cover supposed to diminish? We'll probably get periodic breaks, and that's something to track. Yeah, you guys, some of you are pretty in tune with the weather and know how that works. So some breaks in the clouds and sunshine heats things up and makes it more unstable. But we think regardless of exactly how much sun we get, the atmosphere is going to be pretty unstable into the afternoon. So I wouldn't focus on that too much. We tried to use this phrase on our morning show this morning. Cam is saying, should I be panicking in Baton Rouge? Because I'm definitely panicking. The intent here when we give you all this information is not to cause panic. It's preparation, not panic, okay? We just want everybody to be prepared. As I pointed out, let me go back to, give me a second, I'll pull up a graphic just to show you what all of this means. While the severe weather threat that we're talking about today is much more elevated than we see most days, it's still a fairly low probability that any given neighborhood gets hit by that severe weather. So if we use Baton Rouge as an example, the way the Storm Prediction Center calculates their probabilities and their outlooks, they give you the probability of something occurring within 25 miles of a point. So if we choose Baton Rouge as our point, and I draw a circle with a 25-mile radius around it, which encompasses all of East and West Baton Rouge Parish, a good chunk of Iberville, a good chunk of Ascension, western half of Livingston, southern parts of the Felicianas, and southeastern Point Coupee. There's about a 10% chance, according to the Storm Prediction Center, about a 10% chance that a tornado would touch down somewhere in that circle today. So what's the flip side to that? About a 90% chance that a tornado does not occur anywhere in that circle today. About a 30% chance of damaging winds somewhere within that circle. So the flip side, about a 70% chance that damaging winds do not occur, and about a 30% chance of hail somewhere within that circle. So again, these numbers today, severe weather probabilities, they're elevated relative to normal, but still, it still means that most of us, or a good chunk of us, probably won't get in on what we officially classify as severe weather. But I can't tell you if Baton Rouge is going to get hit, or Denham Springs, or Clinton, who might get hit hardest. That's why we need to all be prepared just in case we get that warning for our neighborhood. Okay, so hopefully that clears it up for you a little bit better on the prepare but don't panic factor. Let's see what else we've got. What about Covington? Yeah, so Covington, as a pull-up, the severe weather outlook, Covington's going to be in a similar outlook to Metro Baton Rouge, the level 3 out of 5. So the enhanced risk of severe weather includes all of the North Shore. As we look at the tornado probabilities, those are going to be similar over that way also. So, you know, this 10% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of Covington today. And then as we look at the strong tornado potential, as my graphic loads up, the hatching here, that also extends into Covington, so can't rule out a strong tornado. So basically the outlook we talk about for Metro Baton Rouge, pretty similar, all the way from Lafayette through Metro Baton Rouge to the North Shore. And then the threat gets higher as you go north of Baton Rouge for the parishes bordering the state line, and then for our counties in southwest Mississippi. And the threat even gets higher as you go outside of our viewing area, but farther into Mississippi, northeast Louisiana, and over into Alabama. All right, let's see what else we've got, if anything. All right, I was popping over on YouTube Live. I see we've got a few of you watching there. No questions coming in, so hopefully I answer all your questions. Alfred asking, what about Macomb? Definitely a more elevated threat in Macomb relative to Baton Rouge. A bit of a higher tornado potential, a little better potential that we could have a strong tornado in somewhere in southwest Mississippi. And if you've lived around here for any length of time, that's pretty typical of our severe weather events. Historically, we often see a little greater potential of tornadoes near and north of the state line. That looks to be the case again today. So certainly in southwest Mississippi, be alert today. And it's not out of the question, Macomb, we could get an isolated strong storm even by early afternoon, but the main threat still looks late afternoon into the evening. Okay, so it's getting in my ear there from Samantha Morgan with our digital team. Kate asking which model I prefer. So I showed you two high-resolution models for today. I showed you the graph model from IBM, which is relatively new, and the HRRR, which has been around for a number of years. I don't really have a preference in looking at those two today. They're both showing similar scenarios. They have some minor differences in timing. The graph is a little quicker, bringing the main area storms into Metro Baton Rouge by about 4 o'clock. The HRRR is more like 5:30, 6 o'clock. So those are still relatively minor differences. They both certainly show some severe weather potential. They show some rotation in the atmosphere. And I'll say this too, I don't see any reason to differ from what the Storm Prediction Center has. Everything I've looked at, and those guys are the experts, those men and women are the experts, number one. Sometimes we can say, oh, maybe I disagree on this point, but everything I've looked at looks right on par with what they're showing in terms of severe weather threat. It's an elevated threat here locally, but maybe even a greater threat as you go a little bit north of Baton Rouge. Yeah, Karen saying, should I leave my trailer in Watson? So I kind of briefly hit on that earlier. Best case, Karen, I know this is always tricky because unlike tropical weather, we usually don't have shelters for people to go to. So if you do have a friend or family member where later today you can go hang out at their house until the storms pass, that's ideal. Sometimes it's not possible. Some people don't have access to that friend or family member willing to take them in. If that's not possible in your scenario, you just need to be extra alert. Okay, I was listening to another question here. So Karen, let me get to you first and I'll get to that next question. So Karen, get out if you can from mid-afternoon until the storms pass tonight. That's the ideal. If you have to stay in your mobile home, you have to be ready to act quickly if any warnings are issued. Mobile homes shown over and over again just don't survive tornadoes. Even if they're tied down, even if they're anchored, they just don't do well. And it's not just tornadoes. If we get some strong straight line winds, those are very capable of flipping mobile homes and trailers or destroying them. So the best course of action for anybody in a mobile home today is just get out until the threat passes. Do your best. Okay, I know it's tough. So another question I was getting in my ear was, what do I do if all the rooms in my house touch an exterior wall? So let me get back to my graphic. So I can tell you at my home, I struggled, I've thought about, and I know where I'll go with my family if needed. But I'm in a modern home that has one of these open floor plans. It's not real divided, and there aren't real great closed off spaces in the middle of the home, and that makes it a little more difficult to figure out. So ideally, we want to try and get somewhere in the middle of the home to a closet or something like that. If every room in your house is touching an exterior wall and you don't have a good interior space, probably your next best option is to find the bathroom. Hopefully you got at least a bathroom that touches an exterior wall. Bathrooms tend to be a bit sturdier than the rest of the home, so that would be your next best option for the person that was asking that question. All right, let's see if we got anything else. I'm not sure. I know. What about if your mobile home is built on looking like a Jim Walter home? I'm not sure I understand that question. Here's what I can tell you. And there are wind engineers that study this and are much more skilled and more knowledgeable in the subject than I am. But everything we're told is that no matter the mobile home, it's just not safe in a tornado. So no matter how sturdy you think it might be, it's best to get out. No matter what the mobile home, what it is, how it's anchored down, how it's tied down, if it is at all, it's just not safe. So best course is to get out. All right, we had another question come in about the timing. I know some of you are joining a bit later, so let me quickly walk through that one more time. Through lunchtime, we should be relatively safe. Notice by 12:30, the graph model hints at a shower storm developing largely east or northeast of Baton Rouge, but the more significant storm cluster still out to our west. As we advance it in time, here's 2:30, and what I've shown is by 4 o'clock or so, the graph shows the storms moving into Baton Rouge. So those of you west of Baton Rouge be a bit sooner on this particular model scenario. And then here we are at 6 o'clock, that initial line racing eastward. We still have some hefty storms showing up near and to south of Baton Rouge. But by about 8 or 9 o'clock, the model's got most of them out of here. And then we contrast it with HRRR, which is just a little bit slower. So again, here through lunchtime, pretty quiet. By early afternoon, notice by 2 o'clock, it hints at a storm or two developing again, largely east and northeast of Baton Rouge. It's not out of the question that these isolated cells could have some spin in them. They probably wouldn't produce a strong tornado, but not out of the question we could get a warning or a weak tornado out of these cells that develop by early afternoon. But again, it's this cluster to the moving in from the west that's going to be our greatest concern. So you'll see here on the HRRR that it really doesn't bring that heavier cluster into Baton Rouge till 5:30, 6 o'clock. So it's an hour and a half, 2 hours behind that graph model. And still has it fairly active through about 7:30, 8 in Metro Baton Rouge, and then by 9:30, 10 has the storms off to our east. So that's why I'm giving everyone this window around Metro Baton Rouge, roughly of 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. is the main threat window. If you're a little west of Baton Rouge, start up a little bit sooner. If you're east of Baton Rouge, it may extend a little bit later to 9 p.m., but that's going to be the main threat time. That 6-hour window should cover it for most of us. All right, I think with that, we will go ahead and wrap it up. Brittany was asking about what does the hatching mean. Let me go over that one more time before we wrap it up. Find the right graphic. So the Storm Prediction Center, we have a number of products we can look at. Most of you are familiar now with the threats that go 1 through 5, and so that's a marginal. Marginal is a level 1 risk. Slight is a level 2 risk. Enhanced is a level 3 risk. Moderate is a level 4 risk. High is a level 5 risk. So that's the 1 to 5 scale. They then break down the specific threat types: tornadoes, damaging winds, and hail. They give us probabilities of those occurring within 25 miles of a point. And then on top of that, occasionally we can get this hatching that they put on some of their graphics. And what that is, that indicates what they call a chance of significant severe weather. So in the case of the tornado probabilities on this map, the hatching shows us at least a 10% chance of a strong tornado occurring within that hatched area. That's basically Baton Rouge northward. So they're saying there's at least a 10% chance today and this evening of an EF2 or stronger tornado occurring within that area. So that's what the hatching means. When we get on to the wind graphic, the hatching means basically at least a 10% chance of hurricane force wind gusts. So the hatching on the wind graphic extends basically Baton Rouge northward. That's at least a 10% chance of winds gusting to 74 miles per hour or higher. And then finally on the hail graphic, let me find that one. On the hail graphic, the hatching means the chances of hail that's at least 2 inches in diameter. So on the hail, they've got the hatching just north of Baton Rouge. So that's at least a 10% chance of hail 2 inches in diameter or larger. So hopefully that answered the question for you. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up now. So keep our First Alert weather app handy for watches, warnings, alerts through the day, interactive radar, all that good stuff will be there. Jeff Morrow will be back on air at noon today with a live update. Jeff will be on noon, 4 and 5. Jay Grimes will be on 6, 6:30, and 10 tonight. And okay, he's doing 4 and 5, you say? Okay, so Jeff's updating me right now. So let me update you on that schedule again. Jeff's doing noon. Jared Silverman will handle 4 and 5 o'clock weather in studio. Jeff is going to be out in Titan 9, our storm tracker, tracking the storms around the area, so a little bit of a change. So we're going to have the full team on this, the bottom line, this afternoon, this evening. I'm going to go home for a while. If you followed me on social media at all, you know even when I'm out the building, I'm still tracking it. So more posts to come from me on social media as well. If needed, I'll come back into work. But those 3 guys will definitely be here to get you through it. Jay, Jeff, and Jared all here this afternoon and this evening to get us through the severe weather threat. So prepare for it now. Hopefully we get through it without too much, but we need to be ready just in case it gets kind of nasty around here late this afternoon into the evening. Stay safe and stay with WAFB for the latest.